You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Calendar and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go. Episode 19 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Andrew Yagi, and I'm a real estate agent.
I'm Kayla Calendar, and I'm a mortgage lender.
Kayla, I think people probably thought we gave up on our podcast because we've probably taken a couple of weeks off. But really, the biggest thing is finding balance and trying to find time to enjoy the summer, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And at the end of the day, we're still being consistent. And a lot of times people put out podcasts and they end, I think the number was after like 10 or 20. They're done. They're done and you never hear from them. So we're still here.
So maybe we'll do one more podcast and then we'll be done.
Nah, we got a lot to talk about. We always have a lot to talk about. So
we do have a lot to talk about. What have you been up to lately these last couple of weeks?
I thought about you this weekend as a plane flew over the lake, but
it wasn't me.
Well, I figured. I, for the first time, took a weekend, and this might sound crazy to those listening, but I relaxed. I wasn't working on anything. We didn't have projects at the lake. We're to that point where we're ready to go. So it's amazing how your mindset shifts when you take the time to just focus on you for a little bit, take time to just unwind. And I did that this weekend. And I'll tell you, I was much more ready for the hustle and bustle of the week than I haven't in a while, all because I took a little relaxation. So that's what I did this weekend. Went to the lake, hung out, chilled, and it was fabulous. So it was great. What about you? What's new in your world?
Yeah. Well, what is new? I've been spending a lot of time at the lake as well. In fact, just this last weekend, we've been starting to get, some of the kids up starting to ski a little bit. And we have kind of this little ski trainer board. It's kind of like a boogie board, kind of rounded in the front and kind of has ski cutouts in the back and little bindings and a rope attached. And so I had a couple of nephews that got up about a week ago and we weren't there. And then Ella, my 5-year-old, she got up and just was like nonstop, like wanted to go 8 or 9 times. And we've been trying to get some of the younger ones to go too. So we had a really nice, relaxing lake weekend as well. Wasn't quite so busy. Not all of my siblings and nieces and nephews were out there, so it was kind of nice. I've been doing, a little bit of traveling, some professional flying, and so got to take a trip down to Orlando. That was really nice. My wife came down and some friends of ours, and we had just a really great time. So kind of recharging, unwinding. It was really, really great.
That's awesome. I saw I don't remember which little one of yours got up on.
You froze, Kayla. You're freezing on me. But yeah, you probably saw the video referencing Ella, the 5-year-old who got up skiing. And she did a really, really great job. And in fact, excited to go back out this weekend and maybe hit it again.
That's awesome. It was Ella, you said?
Yep, Ella.
Yeah, if she can do it, I can do it. I know I can.
Have you ever skied? I'm sure you have.
Never have I ever.
Well, downhill. Well, because of course, coming from Walhalla, North Dakota, the Frostfire Mountain, you've never been snow skiing even?
No, my mom wouldn't let me. My coaches wouldn't let me. They were afraid I'd get hurt. So I just never did.
Because I suppose you were the volleyball and basketball star, right? Or was it just volleyball?
I would say more so volleyball, but it's one of those things where if you don't ever do it, you never do. It's like you don't go back and do it. So yeah, I think I could handle that. The water skiing and the surfing. I'm a little scared, but good for Ella.
You should try wake surfing because the one thing I'm not is athletic, and I haven't even we used to ski all the time, and then kids and everything else happened. We just don't ski.
Yeah.
And even like wakeboarding, I haven't wakeboarded in a decade, and I just learned to wake surf. Got together with some friends from college, and we had a really, really great time. And it was, I'm still, I think I've got one knee that's a little sore from it, but it was a lot of fun.
Worth it. Good for you. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah. Amen.
So Kayla, we haven't connected for a little while. All the while, the market continues to, the world continues to turn and the market continues to churn. And your first question before we talk about rates and market, but what are you seeing in Fargo? What's your perception as far as housing inventory? Like, are there less homes that are available in your market?
Yeah, I mean, much less. I think it's gotten a little bit better in the last few weeks. There's been some newer homes that have come on the market, but I think the fact of the matter is that there's still not enough homes. We're seeing a lot of builders start to kind of push more promotions. We're seeing a lot of people say, okay, if I can't get an existing home, maybe I should build. So I've been running a lot of numbers on new construction. That's very popular in Fargo. And then in terms of inventory, I think that because the rates are doing this, they're coming up a little bit. Those people are still holding on to their homes because they don't want to let go of that lower rate. So they're not selling, which is creating less inventory. So I'm not seeing a lot of shifts in the last since we started this podcast, Andy. I feel like I'm a broken record. It's rates are still high and or rates are normal, I should say, and inventory is low. But how about in your area? What are you witnessing?
Yeah, there's not a lot that's out there, Kayla. I mean, when I pull up the MLS and I look at it in our market, I mean, we do not have a lot of homes. Um, and as rates continue to be high, I feel like, normally you get around the 4th of July, like we've talked
Yeah.
before, and things are maybe a little bit slower as people are enjoying the holiday. And usually it starts to pick up as people
Mhm.
are kind of thinking, hey, where do I want to be this fall or before year end? But even some of the properties I've put up recently, it just seems like there hasn't been as much activity on some homes,
Mhm.
as I would expect. And probably a big reason, Kayla, again, those rates. And like one of our favorite resources, Mortgage News Daily, says
Mhm.
today mortgage rates basically back to 9-month highs.
Mhm.
So talk about that a little bit from your angle now, because you have to be working pretty closely with some pretty motivated buyers. And
Mhm.
what's this doing, to them? Give me an
Yeah,
example.
I've got a buddy out in Michigan and he is a big producer and he told me his numbers lately and he goes, "Well, Kayla, my numbers are low, but I've got a ton of pre-approvals just waiting." And I thought to myself, I'm the same. We've got all these people waiting to buy, and some of those people have houses to sell. However, I'm finding that I'm running numbers constantly, and it's almost like clients are just hoping maybe it's not the same amount every time. And it is. And so I'm seeing that individuals are just on the fence still. And as they sit on that fence, rates continue to kind of slide up a little bit, and that doesn't change their payment. And one of the things and pieces of advice that I have is if you are approved, if you're one of those people that are on the fence or you haven't found a home, make sure that you check with your loan officer that if you're approved up to 350 and a payment of X, make sure that as rates go up and change that you're still qualified. Because if you're at the top of that approval and rates go up, that means that your approval comes down a bit. So those letters are fabulous. They're great, they're gold. However, they only hold so much weight when it comes to the movement of the market. So, kind of a piece of advice and a little bit of what I'm seeing, Andy, on my end.
Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I've been, kind of as an agent on the agent side, been really, really careful about, working with some of the buyers I have and say, hey, are you
Mhm.
absolutely sure that this is going to work? And even double checking with lenders saying, hey, is this really going to work? Because there's nothing worse than, getting down the road a little bit and the lender saying, hey, this just isn't going to work.
Right. And that's where, like, personally, I approve people and I say, you're approved up to a payment of this. But I always leave a little wiggle room because if they say, well, you said I was approved for this, and then rates come up, I don't focus on purchase price because, especially in Fargo, it's specials. Those affect that payment. But focus on that payment. Make sure you talk to your lender before you write an offer and ensure that you're good to go. Because I think a lot of people just kind of forget that, Andy, and maybe realtors do too. They're like, oh, they're approved, we're good to go. But it's so important for otherwise it'll be a kind of a disastrous situation.
Yeah. Well, the devil's in the details, and that's the thing where, I mean, there are just conceivably so many, uh, details, and if you're kind of a high producing lender like yourself, or agent for that matter, you're working with so many different people,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it can be challenging, even having staff on hand, to kind of stay on top of everything. But
Mhm.
as you say, so important.
It is. And I think you're right, is there's a lot of people that we work with. And so it's always, we don't always know when you're going shopping. We ask, we check in, but sometimes it comes up and I've had clients that said, oh, I wrote an offer last night. And I said, oh, well, okay, well, didn't know you were looking right now, but it's all about communication. And like you said, the devil's in the details. So communication, communication, communication.
So rates really as high as they've been,
Mm-hmm.
since November of 22. And, even looking at, the today's rates, about
Mm-hmm.
7.13 for a 30-year fixed on average, about 6.5. I mean, that the rates are pretty high. Kayla, talk a little bit about, like the Mortgage Bankers Association and kind of some of the numbers that they put out.
The MBA forecast comes out every month. You'll notice it says July 20th. So it's very, very recent. The middle of the page, I know there's a lot of info, but in the middle of the page, it says interest rates. Yep, you're right there. As you see, that's 2022. We're into 23. And people are wondering, well, when are rates going to drop? No one really knows. But this forecast takes, historical data. And they take projections and they provide this to us. I mean, there's no guarantee, but this is what they're projecting. So, Andy, if you look into 2023 here, I mean, we're getting to the point where we're at Q3, Q4 almost. So you'll see 6.6, 5.9, but dang, that average today is, you saw it, 7.1.
Yep.
But
and the same thing, I look at the Treasury yield as well, because they're predicting 3.7, and it's a little over 4. Call it 4.1.
Right. And those flow together. And I think it's just important that, just because rates have not come as low as people have been hoping for, this gives an idea of what they could do into 2024. I think a lot of us followed this and saw this should have maybe been forecasted for end of Q3, but we're seeing it in 24. We're seeing right now 5.7, 5.5, 5.2. I guess I want to talk about this because if people are comfortable with the payment at 7 or 6.5, if you pay points, then my advice is get the house now before it becomes so demanding and you're paying $450 for a house that's $400. Get that home if you're comfortable with that payment, with the hopes that based on 2024 projections, you might see a rate 0.5 to 1% or more lower. So that's why I really like this forecast.
Yeah. I did, I don't have it up right now, Kayla, but it just seems to me like, looking at this forecast that, rates were forecasted, the beginning of the year to be a lot lower. Am I imagining that, or wasn't that the case?
No, they were. If you would go back to the old MBA forecast, you would see that the projections were going to be lower, but
You're as cold as ice today, Kayla. Freezing up on me.
Hopefully we see that occur in 24.
I lost you for a couple of seconds.
I lost you too, Andy.
Yeah, well, I think you need some better internet.
I think I need a different laptop that's at home because my other one's not working.
In the meantime, I did find the January numbers. So they had said, kind of by Q3 5.4 and 3.2, 6.6 and 3.7. So yeah, they they were predicting by the end of the year, 5.2, and now they're 5.9. So we'll see. But Kayla, I think what it comes down to is, when we're looking at these numbers again, and not to sound like a broken record, but I still counsel people all the time. And I have more and more people coming into my office who want to sit down and talk scenarios and talk about their situation. And I would still tell people, if you don't need to buy or sell, maybe don't. But obviously, if there's some compelling reason to do something, you have that dream property comes along, that lake property, whatever it is, make the move. But, if not, I think better days are ahead. And if it makes sense to wait, go ahead and wait.
And I think, too, that I love that you say that. No one says you have to buy or sell. However, if there is something that's moving you, that's a compelling reason, whether it's you need more space, you have to move for work, just know that there is some hope out there of some relief in rates at some point. When? No one knows.
Absolutely. I think, one thing I just want to key in before we kind of put this report to bed, Kayla, just the fact, kind of looking at the averages, 5.9 for 2023, 4.9 for 24, and 4.6 for 2025. Again, things haven't moved exactly as quick as we would like, but I look at that as optimistic. And I think it's going to be helpful. My prediction though, going forward, Kayla, even with these rates coming down, I think it's still going to be a seller's market going forward. I don't see any end in sight to that.
Mhm.
And I know at a certain point it has to shift a little bit more, but we just have such low inventory. In fact, I'm having quite frequent meetings, with, city government, county government, other, business leaders, developers, talking a lot about housing. And, obviously it's an issue everywhere, even in Fargo, where there are a ton of builders that are building, but
Right.
especially down, in my area and in rural America, affordable housing
Mhm.
is a problem. So, one of my, commitments is I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do what I can to kind of work on it to help solve that.
Mhm.
And again, help just with this inventory crisis, help those 33-year-old millennials who are
Mhm.
living in mom and dad's basement,
Yeah.
find the house of their dreams that they can afford.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, and would you say in your area and probably nationally, if you're going to be buying, you'll want to find a new home before listing your home? Where do you stand on that, Andy?
As far as like if someone comes to me and they want to find a home before they sell.
Yeah, if you got someone that has a house to sell and a home to buy, what
Mhm.
are you advising in terms of this is the steps to take from here?
Well, number one, call Kayla.
Yeah.
Because you really have to have that financial plan in place. And
Yep.
so we still have people come to us, hey, I just want to fall in love with the house, and then it just doesn't work. Was counseling someone the other day who does have a house to sell, but financially they
Mhm.
don't have to, and they're going to
Mhm.
be more well positioned,
Yeah.
to make a move. And again, hard for people that have a home to sell or need financing to compete with a baby boomer that maybe has cash or something like that. So really have that plan in
Mhm.
place.
I'm getting a lot of people that want to go non-contingent, meaning they want to be approved for both homes so that their offer is stronger. And so I'm seeing a lot of that lately where they should be selling their house to get the equity to put down towards the new home. But in order to get the home, they're having to tell the seller, well, I can afford both. If my house doesn't sell, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a ton of that lately.
Yep. Yep. And their house will sell. I've had to counsel a few
Mhm.
people on, hey, get your house on the market, get it sold, find a short-term rental scenario, because that's
Yeah.
about the only way that you're going to find success,
Mhm.
unless you just sit and stay where you're at.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like we've been in that market before, and it's a matter of being strategic with your team, with your lender, with your realtor, because how you package up an offer, what you're approved for, what you can do, it is so important that you're not just shopping rates as a consumer. Don't just be like, oh, who's got the lowest rate? Guaranteed, you can hop online and find someone for an eighth of a point lower for cost or
yeah.
rate, but make sure that you are interviewing your realtor and your lender and saying, how are you preparing me for this market? What strategies do you have? Because so often people don't even know what to ask. So they just ask lenders, what's the rate? And
Yep.
realtors, what are you charging?
Yep.
Do your
What's the
research.
price? What are you actually doing?
Exactly. So that's kind of the biggest wins that I'm seeing is that we are getting strategic. We're getting smarter. We're setting our clients up for success. We're not just saying, hey, here's a rate. See you later.
Mm,
Same with you. You're not saying, I'm going to list your home for X, but okay, we'll do that. You're saying, here's the value. This is important. So that's a piece of advice I have for people shopping right now.
I love it, Kayla. Absolutely love it. And I'd also invite anyone who's listening or watching this, if you do have questions, reach out to either one of us. Always happy to connect with people. And on that, note to Kayla, would invite anyone if they have ideas or questions or potential topics that they'd like to see us discuss, or maybe something contentious to debate a little bit. We'd love to have that. I know some of our upcoming shows, we're going to work in a couple of different angles, maybe some guests as well. So always appreciate those that tune in, and always open to feedback and ideas as well.
Well, one of the feedbacks was that I do the introductions more often. So
Well, hey, for episode 20 and from episode 20 to 40, you're in the hot seat.
gosh, I just have to work on my radio voice, Andy, to be more like you. So I'll work on that between now and then.
We were joking about that the other day, and I did do a little stint in radio. And so when you were growing up in Walhalla, did you get like XL93 Grand
Oh
Forks
yeah.
station? You listened to it, and
Mhm.
so it was funny. We would always get together with one of my cousins, and we'd sometimes prank call some of his friends, and I'd pretend to be Rockin' Rick from XL93. And then one time we said, and of course a hit music, top 40 station giving away We Fest tickets, and someone was like, why is XL93 giving away WeFest tickets?
Yeah, right, 'cause wasn't it Froggy or Bob or something at that point, or yeah.
Yeah. God, I don't even remember.
Yeah,
It's
gosh,
been so long,
I
but
can see you doing that, Andy.
yeah, yeah.
Very scandalous of you.
Well, you work on that radio voice, and we'll put you in the hot seat for episode
Sounds
20
great.
and beyond.
I love it. Back to you, Andrew. Love it.
Well, Kayla, great connecting with you as always. Have a great week, and let's commit to seeing each other next week. How about that?
Sounds like a plan. I love it.
Hey, see you, Kayla.
Bye. Take care.